Hello students. Today in this lecture number 9 of machine learning, I'm going to tell you about the further algorithms of classifications. As in the previous lecture, we have already seen one of the classification algorithm that was we have seen decision tree, and after decision trees we have seen hierarchical clustering algorithm, and in a hierarchical clustering algorithm we have seen the various types of hierarchical clustering, that was agglomerative and divisive in type. So we have already seen these two algorithms. Now in today's lecture I'm going to cover up a very basic and a very elementary algorithm of clustering, that is called naive Bayes. So I'm going to cover up this naive Bayes algorithm today, and about the problems that it faces, what can be the demerits and what can be the merits of naive Bayes algorithm. So all these things I'm going to cover up in today's lecture. So stay tuned and keep watching. So here I'm going to tell you about naive Bayes classification, and these are the today's objectives of this lecture. So we are going to cover up about the classification, the Bayes classifier, why this is useful, what kind of errors the naive classification can have, and what exactly is cross validation. So all these things we are going to cover up in today's lecture. So, starting with the classification part, first of all, in the previous lectures also, I've told you this thing that, see, by classification, what do we mean? Classification is nothing but, to classify the things into one group or another group. Now, based on, like we have seen earlier examples, like on the basis of some text, on the basis of some text analysis, you can identify that whether a given mail is considered to be a category of spam, or it should be considered in a category of not spam. Similarly, even in medical diagnosis field, we can use this technique of classification, where classification always helps you out in classifying a particular person to be diagnosed with a particular disease or not to be diagnosed with a particular disease. Similarly, as you can see here is the third example, where in weather forecasting field also we can classify, like we can classify or we can predict that whether a particular day, it would be a hot and sunny day, it would be a humid day, it would be a rainy day, or it will face some thunderstorms. So these are all the application areas of classification, and these are the things where we can classify our data and help our machine to learn the classification process. For that we need to train our machine, as I have already taken this lecture on testing and training of the machines. So I'm not going to cover up these things here. You can go back to my previous channels, you can go back to my previous lectures, and you can consult those topics over here. So let us now, first of all, move over the very basic of the naive Bayes algorithm, and we'll understand it today with the help of some examples. So here I'm going to tell you, and we are going to understand one of the most popular and simple machine learning classification algorithm, which is called the naive Bayes algorithm. It is based on Bayes theorem for calculating probabilities and conditional probabilities. You people have gone through the probabilities part. You already know what is probability. I am assuming this thing that you people already know the probabilities, how do you calculate it, and what is the conditional probabilities. If you people don't know, please go back and please first of all refer to these two important points, because until you people know what is conditional probability and what is total probability, you won't be able to understand this classification. So the prerequisite for this lecture is the conditional probabilities and calculating the probabilities. Now we'll learn how we can implement the naive Bayes classifier. So starting with the Bayes classifier first, here's a situation. If you have got into your project, like you are working on a classification problem and have generated your set of hypotheses, created features, and discussed the importance of the variables. Now, within an hour, stakeholders want to see the first cut of the model. What will you do? Now, you have hundreds of thousands of data points and quite a few variables in your training data set. Now, in such a condition, if I were in your place, I would have used naive Bayes, which can be extremely fast relative to other classification algorithms. Now, it works on Bayes algorithm or Bayes theorem of probability to predict the class of unknown data sets. Now, in this tutorial, I'm going to explain the basics of this algorithm so that the next time when you come across large data sets, you can bring this algorithm to action, right? Now, in addition, you are actually a newbie in your Python or let's say R language. So you should not be overwhelmed by the presence of available code, which are there on the sources, on internet sources. You can find the codes of even Naive-Bayes algorithm. So let us just quickly understand what is, first of all, the table of contents that I'm going to tell you. We'll understand what is naive Bayes first of all. So, as I already told you, that it is a classification technique which is based on Bayes' theorem with an assumption of independence among the predictors. In simple terms, if I say a naive Bayes classifier assumes that the presence of a particular feature in a class is unrelated to the presence of any other feature. For example, a fruit may be considered to be an apple if it is red, round, and about 3 inches in diameter. Even if these features depend on each other or upon the existence of other features, all these properties independently contribute to the probability that this fruit is an apple, and that is why it is known as naive. Now, naive-Bayes model is easy to build and particularly useful for very large data sets, right? Now, along with simplicity, naive-Bayes is known to outperform even highly sophisticated classification methods. Now, Bayes' theorem, provides a way of calculating posterior probability. Posterior probability is given by capital P, C, bar, and X, right? From PC, PX, and PXC. Now, the formula of probability is already given. Let me show the formula to you. Is a formula. You can see the likelihood of the event to occur, the prior events that they are, and the normalization constant, right? So this is the algorithm. But there you can see the formula for the class this probability. So here, as I am showing the formula to you again, let me take it to. Now, the left-hand side that you are seeking, that you are seeing, is a posterior probability, right? And the first part that you are seeing, that is this py, the py that you are seeing here. What is this py? Basically, this py is the prior probability of the class. And on the right hand side, the upper part that you are seeing, the numerator that you are seeing, is the likelihood, which is the probability of the predictor given class. And the px that we are talking about, this px is the prior probability of the predictor. So these are all the terms that we are using in Naive-Bayes algorithm. Now we need to understand that how Naive-Bayes algorithm is working. Now let us understand it using an example. Let us assume that I have a training data set of weather and corresponding target variable play, right? Suggesting possibilities of playing. Now we need to classify whether players will play or not based on the weather condition. Now let's see what will be our steps in Naive-Bayes algorithm. So first of all, what I have to do is I need to convert the data set, the large data set that I have got of the weather data set that I have got. What I need to do is I need to convert that data set into a frequency table, right? Now, in second step, I'm going to create a likelihood table by finding the probabilities, right? overcast probability, and the probability of plane, right? Then in the step number 3, what I'm going to do is I am now going to use Naive-Bayesian equation to calculate the posterior probability of each class. The class with the highest posterior probability is the outcome of this prediction. So here, if I formulate the problem would be players will play if weather is sunny. Is this statement correct? So we can solve it using the this shown method, this discussed method of posterior probability. So we are going to only play in case the weather is sunny. So yes, here your y, the y that you are seeing is yes, because we want this outcome, that yes, if it is yes, then only I'm going to play. So y would be yes and x would be sunny. So p, this can be formulated using the formula that is shown on your screen. So after this you can find out the total outcome. So total outcome with that you'll get is 0.64, which has a very higher probability. Now Naive-Bayes uses a similar method to predict the probability of different class based on various attributes. This algorithm is mostly used in text classification and with problems having multiple classes. Only these special conditions normally we use this Bayesian classification. So in statistics, see, Naive-Bayes classifiers are simply a family of simple probabilistic classifiers based on applying Bayes theorem with strong independent assumptions between the features. Right? They are among the simplest Bayesian network models, but coupled with kernel density estimation, they can achieve higher accuracy level. Naive-Bayes classifiers are, they are highly scalable, requiring a number of parameters linear in the number of variables in a learning problem. Now, maximum likelihood training can be done by evaluating a closed form expression, which takes linear time rather than by expensive iterative approximation as used for many other types of classifiers. Now, in the statistics and computer science literature, Naive-Bayes model are known under a variety of names, including simple Bayes and independent Bayes. Now, all these names refers the use of Bayes theorem in the classification decision rules, but Naive-Bayes is not necessarily a Bayesian method. Now, see, it is, Naive-Bayes, as I've told you, it is a very simple technique for constructing classifiers, models that assigns class labels to problem instances, right? Represented as a vector of feature values where the class labels are drawn from source of some repository or from some finite set. Now there is not a single algorithm for training such classifiers, but we have got a family of algorithms based on a common principle. All Naive-Bayes classifiers assume that the value of a particular feature is independent of the value of any other feature given the class variable. For example, let's say, as I've already told you, that if we want to, classify a fruit to be an apple on the basis of its color, of its size, of its shape, we can do that using the Naive-Bayes algorithm. So a Naive-Bayes classifier basically consider each of these features to contribute, independently to the probability that this fruit is an apple, right? Regardless of any possible correlations between the color, the roundness, and diametric features. Okay. Now, for some type of probabilistic model, Naive-Bayes classifier can be trained very efficiently in a supervised learning setting. Now, in many practical applications, parameter estimation for Naive-Bayes model uses the method of maximum likelihood. Or, in other words, we can say that one can work with the Naive-Bayes model without accepting Bayesian probability or using any Bayesian methods. Despite their naive design and apparently, oversimplified assumptions, Naive-Bayes classifiers have worked quite well in many complex real-world situations. Now, if I go back to 2004, year 2004, an analysis of Bayesian classification problem showed that there are sound theoretical reasons for the apparently implausible efficacy of Naive-Bayes classifiers. Still, a comprehensive comparison with other classification algorithms, is shown that Bayes classification is outperformed by other approaches, such as random trees. So, an advantage of naive Bayes is that it only requires a small number of training data to estimate the parameters necessary for classification. So here, if we talk about the model parameters of this classifier model, for Bayes classifier, we need to learn two functions, the likelihood and the prior function. Now, how many parameters are required to specify the prior or for our digit recognition example? Let's say this is one of the application of Bayesian algorithm that we need to, recognize a given digit. So on the input digit, on the input data, I'm going to apply the classifier and it will, find out that what kind of digit is it. So here when I'm talking about, the model parameters, how I'm going to, recognize that the digit is correct. Now, how many parameters are required to specify the likelihood? Supposing that each image is of 30 into 30, how would we do that? Now, the problem with explicit modeling is that there are usually way too many parameters, and due to that, we'll always run out of the space, we'll run out of the time, and we'll need tons of training data in this case. So, this is the naive Bayes model, and here we are assuming that all the features are independent given the class label y. This is the equation. Now this is an example of maze-based training. Now we have reached to this classifier and we need to train our data on the basis of this. So as you can see, it is very easy to train in naive Bayes, where estimation is p y is equals to p as a fraction of the records with y is equals to p. So we can easily do that using this particular formula. So in some of these counts, it can be zero. We need to fix these values. So this process is the whole process is called smoothing. Here you can see the classification, the prediction that we are doing. In the first problem, it was prediction, fifth prediction that we are doing, then prediction of six, and then the prediction of two. This is the prediction of the weather forecasting. These are some of the attributes that you are seeing here: outlook, the temperature, the humidity, the windy, and the play. This play is the outcome that we need to decide that whether we should play on the basis of the attributes that we have, windy, humidity, and all. So this is the likelihood of yes. See here. Now we'll understand what is parameter estimation and event models. Now a class prior may be calculated by assuming equiprobable classes or by calculating an estimate for the class probability from the training set. To estimate the parameters for a features distribution, one must assume a distribution or generate non-parametric models for the features from the training set. The assumptions on distribution of features are called event model of the naive-Bayes classifier. Now, for discrete features like the ones encountered in document classification, including spam filtering, it is multinomial and Bernoulli's distributions, right? Now, these are the assumptions which lead to two distinct models, which are often confused. These are Gaussian naive-Bayes and multinomial naive-Bayes. Now, when dealing with continuous data, a typical assumption is that the continuous values associated with each class are distributed according to a normal distribution. For example, suppose the training data contains a continuous attribute, that is x. The data is first segmented by the class, and then the mean and the variance of x is computed in each class. So another common technique for handling continuous values is to use binning to discretize the feature values to obtain a new set of Bernoulli distributed features. Some literature, in fact, suggests that this is necessary to apply naive Bayes, but it is not. Actually, it is not, and the discretization may throw away discriminating information. So sometimes the distribution of the class conditional marginal densities is far from normal. In these cases, kernel density estimation can be used for a more realistic estimate of the marginal densities of each class. This method, which was introduced by John and Langley, can boost the accuracy of the classifier considerably. Second model that I have told you is a multinomial naive Bayes. With a multinomial event model, samples represent the frequencies with which certain events have been generated by a multinomial P1 to Pn, where Pi is the probability that event I occurs, or K, such as multinomials in the multiplace, a feature vector X is then a histogram with xi counting the number of times event I was observed in a particular instance. This is the event model typically used for document classification with events represented, or maybe they are representing the occurrence of a word in a single document. So this is about multinomial variant. Then we have Bernoulli's naive Bayes. Now, in multivariate Bernoulli event model, features are independent Boolean variables describing the inputs. Like the multinomial model, the model is popular for document classification tasks where binary term occurrence features are used rather than term frequencies. Right. So this is about the Bernoulli's feature. Despite the fact that the far-reaching independence assumptions are often inaccurate in nature, the naive-Bayes classifier has several properties that make it, surprisingly useful in practice. In particular, the decoupling of the class conditional feature distributions means that each distribution can be independently estimated as one-dimensional distribution. This helps alleviate problems stemming from the curse of dimensionality, such as the need of data set that scale exponentially with the number of features. While naive Bayes often fails to produce a good estimate for the correct class probabilities, this may not be a requirement for many applications. For example, the naive Bayes classifier will make the correct map decision rule classification so long as the correct class is more probable than any other class. Now, this is true regardless of whether the probability estimates is slightly or even grossly inaccurate. In this manner, the overall classifier can be robust enough to ignore serious deficiencies in its underlying naive probability model. Other reasons for the observed success of the naive-Bayes classifiers are discussed in literatures. So you can go through those literatures and you can understand what exactly is it. These are the performance of naive-Bayes. You can see what, how, and how highly it is performing on the test set. These are, we have seen Bernoulli's distribution. So in conclusion, I can say that really it is really easy to implement and often it works well also. And it is, very good thing to, first of all, for a trial purpose, it is actually good and commonly used as a punching bag for smarter algorithms. So you can just, hit and trial that how good your attempt and assumptions are. So using this naive Bayes algorithm, you can get an elementary idea about what kind of predictions you are getting. Now I'm going to tell you about the types of errors that we have. So see, whenever you want to find out the types of error in prediction, we always make a confusion matrix where you can see in confusion matrix here we have true positive, then false positive, and false negative, and true negative. So here with the help of these kind of confusion matrix, you can find out the correct results. So here, two parts of each, whether you got it correct or not and what you guessed. For example, for a particular pixel, our guess might be labeled as true positive. So what does that mean? By true, did we get it correct? True, we get it correct. So our outcome is correct. And what did they say? We said positive. That means it was labeled as one of the others, like true positive means it was actually existing and even we assumed it to be there. So the outcome is correct. Whatever, like for example, if I say that a person, a data I've got about a diseased person, let's say a person is having a cancer. Now with the help of prediction model, I have also guessed it right. I have also predicted that the person is yes, he's having cancer. So in this case it will be known as true positive, because even the report was saying this, that he was cancerous, and even by my classification model, even I am predicting the same thing, that yes, the person has got a disease, that is cancer. So that is considered to be a true positive. Now, next could be the false negative. Now, false negative could be, say, false negative can be if the prediction is correct, and I'm saying that no, there is no such kind of disease. In that case, I would say that this is a false negative case where it is not the case, and even then, I'm saying that yes, the person doesn't have any kind of disease. So on the basis of the confusion matrix, we can count up the total number of each label, like uh, how much true positive, how much false positive, how much true negative, false negative over a large data set. So in ROC analysis, which is done for this, we can calculate the formula, like sensitivity can be taken up by true positive divided by true positive plus false negative, and it can be thought of as the likelihood of spotting a positive case when presented with one, or the proportion of edges we find. Similarly, we have specificity, that is given by true negative divided by true negative plus false positive. It can be thought of as the likelihood of spotting the negative case when presented with one, or we can say the proportion of non-edges that we find. Now we have come over to the next topic, which is called cross validation in machine learning. Now we'll understand this thing, that exactly what is cross validation, right? I'm just going to give you a gentle introduction or to k-fold cross validation. So see, cross validation is a resampling procedure which is used to evaluate machine learning models on the limited data sample. The procedure has a single parameter which is called k, that refers to the number of groups that a given data sample is to be split into. As such, the procedure is often called k-fold cross-validation. When a specific value for k is chosen, it may be used in place of k in the reference to the model, such as right? Like k is equals to 10 becoming tenfold cross validation. Now, cross validation is primarily used in applied machine learning to estimate the skill of a machine learning model on unseen data. That is, to use a limited sample in order to estimate how the model is expected to perform in general when used to make predictions on data not used during the training of the model. It is a popular method because it is very simple to understand, and because it generally results in a less biased or less optimistic estimate of the model skill than other methods such as simple train or test fit. So the general procedure it follows is you need to first of all the procedure is that first of all you need to shuffle the data set randomly. Then you need to split the data set into k different groups. For each unique group, what you are going to do is first of all you will take the group as a whole or a test data set. Then take the remaining group as a training data set. Then you need to fit a model on the training set and evaluate it on the test set. And finally, you can retain the evaluation score and discard the model. So summarizing the skills of the model using the sample of model evaluation scores can give you the answer of the cross validation process. Now, importantly, each observation in the data sample is assigned to an individual group and stays in that group for the duration of the procedure. This means that each sample is given the opportunity to be used in the holdout set one time and used to train the model k minus 1 times. Now, this approach invokes randomly dividing the set of observations into k groups or folds of approximately equal size. The first fold is treated as a validation set, and the method is fit on the remaining k minus 1 folds. So it is also important that any preparation of the data prior to fitting this model occur on the CV assigned training data sets within the loop rather than on the broader data set. So this allows applies to any tuning of hyperparameters. A failure to perform these operations within a loop may result in data leakage and the optimistic estimate of the model skill. So this is about cross validation that we have taken. So the results of a k-fold cross validation run are often summarized with the mean of the model skill scores. It is also good practice to include a measure of variance of the skill scores, such as the standard deviation of the standard error. So the k value must be chosen carefully for your data sample. A poorly chosen value for k may result in misrepresentative idea of the skill of the model, such as a score with a high variance or a high bias. So these are some of the things that we can use. Now see, there are three common tactics for choosing a value for k, which are like first tactic that you can use is representative. So the value for k is chosen such that each train or test group of data samples is large enough to be statistically representative of the broader data set. Then k is equals to 10. Now the value of k is fixed to 10, a value that has been found through experimentation to generally result in a model scale estimate with low bias, a modest variance. And finally, we have k is equals to n. Now the value for k is fixed to n, where n is the size of the data set to give each test sample an opportunity to be used in the holdout of a data set. So this average approach is called leave one out cross validation. So this is about the cross validation that we have done, also called k-fold cross validation. As I've already told you about leave one out cross validation here. This is the hands-on example that you can go through. This is all about today's lecture about the Knight-based algorithm for classification, and we have seen what is cross validation as well. So I hope the lecture is clear to you, and now I'm quickly going to share the MCQs with all of you regarding the learnings we have done today. Here is the quiz of applied machine learning. I hope you all will be able to answer the quiz. So I hope you are able to answer these two questions. Let me take you to the next set of questions now. If we train a naive-wise classifier using infinite training data that satisfies all of its modeling assumptions, then in general, what can we say about the training error and the test error? So just select the correct answer out of this. I hope you were able to answer this question. Now let me take you to another question set. Now, which of the following is able to approximate any continuous function to an arbitrary accuracy? And what is the definition of the maximum margin in the context of SVM? So question number 6 and 7. The use of sigmoid function makes back propagation possible because it is continuous and differentiable. Besides enabling back propagation, the sigmoid function also makes neural network unique classifier or non-unique classifier. Now the next question is one marble jar has several different colored marbles inside of it. It has one red, two green, four blue, and eight yellow marbles. All the marbles are the same size and shape. Now, if Peter takes out a marble from the jar without looking, what is the probability that we will not choose a yellow marble? So it is a simple total probability method that you can use using Naive-Bayes algorithm. Question 8, 9, and 10. The last question, that is question number 10, is very easy, I guess. You people will be able to answer. Which of the following statements about the k-means algorithms are correct? So the k-means algorithm is sensitive to outliers. The centroids in the k-means algorithm will not be any observed data points. And for different initializations, the k-means algorithm will definitely give the same clustering results. The k-means algorithm can detect non-convex clusters. So I hope all these will be already clear to you. So let me now quickly tell you what can be the applications of Naive-Bayes algorithm. So see, Naive-Bayes algorithm has too many applications and it can be used in various domains. The first, application that we can have is of real-time application where Naive-Bayes, is an eager learning classifier and it is, surely fast. Thus, it could be used for making predictions in real time. Similarly, we have multi-class prediction. Now, this algorithm is also well known for multi-class prediction feature. Here we can, predict the probability of multiple classes of target variable. The next major area of its application is the text classification, spam filtering, and sentiment analysis. So, knife-based classifiers mostly used in the text classification due to better results in multi-class problems and independence rules. They have higher success rates as compared to other algorithms. So, as a result, it is widely used in spam filtering and sentiment analysis to identify positive and negative customer sentiments. And then we can have, we can apply them in recommendation systems as well. So naive based classifier and collaborative filtering together builds a recommendation system that use machine learning and data mining techniques to filter unseen information and predict whether a user would like a given resource or not, right? So these are some of the naive based applications that we have seen. Now, how we can, there could be some tips to improve the power of Naive-Bayes model, how we can improve the model to implement it on a particular problem. So see, here are some of the tips. If continuous features do not have normal distribution, then we should use transformation or different methods to convert it in normal distribution. So try to always implement your naive-Bayes classifier on the normal distribution. Second tip could be if the test data set has zero frequency issue, apply smoothing techniques like Laplace correction. You can use it to predict the class of the test data set. Similarly, what you can do is you can remove correlated features as the highly correlated features are voted twice in the model and it can lead to overinflating importance. Then you can what you can do is naive-Bayes classifiers has limited options for parameter tuning like alpha is equals to 1 for smoothing, fit prior is equals to true or false to learn class prior probabilities, or not and some other options like I would recommend to focus on your pre-processing of the data and the feature selection. Now, you might think to apply some classifier combination techniques like ensembling, bagging, and boosting, but these methods, would not help. So, actually, ensembling, boosting, bagging won't help since their purpose is to reduce variance only. Knife base has no variance to minimize. This is important. So please don't use such kind of things. And finally, I can cover up with the end note that in this tutorial we looked at one of the supervised machine learning algorithm, that is knife base, which is mainly used for classification. And if you have thoroughly understood this article, you have already taken your first step to master this algorithm. So from here, you all need is the practice part. And further, I would suggest you to focus more on the data pre-processing and feature selection prior to applying knife-based algorithm uh, after this, right? So for further queries, you can contact me and you can write below the description box. You can just write whatever you feel like. And in case of any queries, you can better contact. And I'll be coming with the lecture number 10 with some other more important algorithms based on classifications. So stay tuned and keep studying. Thank you.